Hi, welcome. Okay, so today we're looking at AP Literature Section 2, Question 2, Prose. Okay, so we're looking at an example pulled from Joy Kugwawa's Obasan. Okay, read carefully the following passage from Joy Kugwawa's Obasan, a novel about the relocation of Japanese Canadians to internment camps during the Second World War. Then, in a well-organized essay, analyze how changes in perspective and style reflect the narrator's complex attitude toward the past. In your analysis, consider literary elements such as point of view, structure, selection of detail, and figurative language. At this point, you have taken 8 to 10 minutes to annotate, okay, and use the TAP strategy. And as a reminder, the steps to take: 1, read it one time, okay, read it one time through. Step 2, okay, after you read it through, annotate, okay, use the TAP strategy. Step 3, after you've done this, you write your thesis, okay, and then step 4, create that outline. In your outline, you should pull your evidence, okay, so you probably aren't going to be able to, with question 2, truly do that thesis or that outline until you've read through the actual passage, okay? So let's go ahead and look at this prompt though and see what we can do at this point, okay? So thinking about TAP, again, TAP stands for T, A, sorry, and P is points, okay? And by point, we really mean that theme, right? What point is the speaker or narrator making, okay? All right, so in a well-organized essay, analyze how changes in perspective and style reflect the narrator's complex attitude toward the past. This is quite a verbose sentence, so we really want to break it down here. What is the topic? Well, the topic is the narrator's complex attitude toward the past and how changes in perspective and style reflect it. Okay, so which one is the topic? Which one are we analyzing? Well, the topic in and of itself is really that complex attitude, okay, towards the past. So I'm just going to go ahead right here and label this as T to save time. Okay, then what am I analyzing? Well, I'm analyzing the change in perspective and style. Okay, so this is going to be my analysis here. And what point am I making? What am I going to say about this change? Okay, I can't answer the point until I've actually read through that passage. But I do know that I need to consider literary elements such as point of view, structure, selection of detail, and figurative language. Remember this word consider. What does that mean? That does not mean that I need to do all 1, 2, 3, 4 of these, okay? I just need to choose the ones that stand out most to me as I read, okay, or the ones that prove my point the best, okay? So when I think of point, what is the theme? What is the lesson learned? So now at this time, we're going to go ahead and read through the passage, okay? You can go ahead and pause this video if you need to on each section of that passage there. Okay, so let me go ahead and open that up for you. Apologize for the delay here. Okay, here are the first 3 paragraphs. Okay, so if you do not have the text in front of you, you can pause the video now. There are the next. Okay. Okay, so please go ahead and pause if you need to read through. Otherwise, we are going to move right through and I'm going to be highlighting those words that are part of my focus. And what I have chosen to focus on, because all roads lead to tone, okay, what I've chosen to focus on from here is tone. And because I read it before, I know that I'm going to be focusing on figurative language. Okay, those are my 2 items that I'm really focusing on. Now, of course, I'm going to inevitably focus on structure and detail if I'm focusing on that figurative language. Okay, all right. And inevitably, I'll focus on point of view, but these are the 2 that I'm really marking up as I go. Okay, so right here, I'm going to write tone and figurative language just as a reminder to myself, and that might change as I read, okay? That might depend upon what I find, okay? All right, let's look at this. Okay, paragraph 1, there are a couple of things that I want to note here, okay? First, rain, cloud, mist. Okay, if you miss any of these things as you were reading, please go ahead and find them now, okay? Drowning, weeping, okay? Then paragraph 2, line 9, chips and sand, okay? Fragments of fragments, silences, voiceless, okay? We also have this idea of all of these paradoxes, right? We have so many paragraphs. We are sent to the sending, or sorry, no. We are scholarly and illiterate all the way to docile, okay? There are so many paradoxes contained here. Okay, and then as I continue on, okay, in the dust of the prairies, okay, this is very powerful in terms of the tone here. We have a tone of desperation, okay, and we have a tone of despair, right? Drowning, weeping, fragments of fragments, silences, voiceless, okay, and with that idea, let's see if it continues into those next paragraphs. Into those next paragraphs, we have, second, sorry. That next paragraph, we disappear into the undemanding dew. Okay, so it's as if these people, okay, this narrator and the people to whom she's referring are almost invisible, okay, and this should be quite striking, quite emotional, and really, really hits on that tone of desperation and despair. Okay, as we move on, we see, if you've read it, you should have seen a shift here, right? When we see the memories are dream images. Okay, we see dream, we see toys, okay, a kind of lighter tone. Then it is 3 decades ago, less metaphorical, okay, this is more kind of objective, right? And then as we move down, we see, but even strangers are addressed as Ojisan and Obasan, meaning uncle or aunt. Okay, so we're seeing this shift in tone, definitely. Okay, as we continue on to the back, okay, we still have this kind of objective tone. Okay, and I say that again because I have already annotated and read through this. Okay, and how did I get that? Well, I got this from the fact that she's really just telling her narrative, okay, or the narrator rather than she, okay. We see specifically this. We see specifically these similes. Settles like insects, okay, of an exotic bird. Okay, of an exotic bird, right? And as we continue down, bird-like face. Okay, these are not as harsh as that drowning, as that weeping. Then we continue. We see this word coeso used whenever there is hurt and a need for tenderness, okay? So again, even though we have this objective tone, we see this huge shift into not only the objective tone, but also a tone of tenderness. Okay, again, shifting from this idea of these paradoxes. One of those paradoxes being scholarly and illiterate, fierce and docile. This is very much focused on this tenderness, on this community, okay, as you see throughout. Specifically, if you move down even further in the passage, you are going to see where it says, the baby is cute, okay, using kawaii. And why did the author use this specific diction, this specific language as she tells her story? This is also very important to note, these details. Okay, the baby is cute. We also see small as a button. Okay, we see this idea of withdrawing. We see this idea of without looking up. Okay, so while it is still objective, It is very tender, and we could almost say withdrawn. Whereas that first paragraph was very much desperate, very much despair, very much kind of in your face. This one is more withdrawn. This one is more tender. Okay, so then we say, what does this actually mean? We've marked some of these items up. If you've marked some of those up already, excellent. If you haven't, add them to your paper. Okay, now let's go back here. Since I've read and annotated, now I'm ready to move on to my next step here, and that is coming up with my points and my analysis. I have decided that I am going to really analyze. I already know that I'm talking about the complex attitude toward the past, and the changes in perspective and style. Okay, I have decided that I'm going to analyze the tone. The fact that the tone moves from desperation, okay, to tenderness. Tenderness and almost withdrawal. Okay, and I am also going to mark, or rather analyze, the structure. Okay, the fact that the structure moves from being very metaphorical to more objective and methodical. Okay, so I'm doing two things here. I'm analyzing the tone, okay, and I'm analyzing the structure. So here I have the structure, and how am I going to do this? In my structure, I also am analyzing that figurative language. So I want you to note that it's not so formulaic, okay? These things can be fluid. And then, of course, inevitably, I'm analyzing that selection of detail as we already looked at. Now, what point am I making? I have to ask myself, as this narrator moves from this kind of desperation to this kind of tenderness, what is her point? What do we think that she wants us to recognize as readers? And that's where we come to this point, to this theme. This is one of the most difficult questions, okay? But when you go back and you really look through this, you really analyze it, what I'm seeing is, especially with the background knowledge we know that this is about the relocation forcefully, okay, of the Japanese Americans to the internment camps during the Second World War. So this is this is a true situation. This is a historical situation. So what we realize here is that it starts with this harsh, okay, this harsh tone, this desperation, and moves to this tender tone. So how does her perspective change? Okay, and I've come to thinking about 2 points, and these are just to start you off, okay? But 2 of my points, one is amidst the horrors of the past, human strength and companionship endures. Okay, because we see in the beginning, this is horrifying, right? An air overladen with weeping. Behind us lies a salty sea within which swim our drowning specks of memory. And that last line of that first kind of section, line 22 on your paper, we disappear into the future, undemanding as dew. This idea of being invisible, this idea of being forgotten, this idea of being dehumanized, essentially. So that's one point that I might make. A second point that I might make, okay, and I'm sorry I'm running out of room, I may be up here, is along with the horrors of the past, also injustice cannot overcome, okay, the power of the human spirit. Now, after reading this and really thinking through this, it's almost as though it does, right? It's almost as though injustice does overcome the human spirit. We see this mother so incredibly desperate, but juxtaposed with this tenderness, okay, this kind of communal tone. So when you think about the point, this is what does the author want you as a reader to take away, okay? And these 2 things, it seems, are pretty evident here. Okay?